which you're not interested in. You're not even prepared to accept his statistics, which Mark Lamont has accepted are correct.
No, what I said was literally white people are the group that are more likely to commit hate crimes against
You're talking about another statistic.
Let me finish because other people were allowed to finish.
But you won't answer Chris Rufo's statistics.
I am, but you will not allow
Do
me
you
to
admit
do
he's
that
right?
because I admit that he's right. His interpretation is wrong. Black people are also 7 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted. So when you talk,
you're giving another statistic again.
When you talk,
you're playing whataboutery. I'm sorry, but you are.
No, I'm not.
You're playing whataboutery, and your justification for the coverage of the George Floyd story was that there's a pattern. All right, Marlon,
because you're trying to push a narrative, you won't let me finish.
I'm not pushing any narrative.
Let me respond to the point that she's raising, because I just looked it up. You're wrong on actually all counts. For someone who supposedly studies statistics, I would recommend that you find a different line of work, because not only are you willfully blind to the two statistics I've raised, which group has the highest homicide rate, which group has the highest interracial homicide rate, but according to FBI statistics, actually per capita, Black Americans have a higher rate of committing hate crimes than white Americans. There's a statistical disparity there, that not in absolute terms, but in per capita terms. Even your prize statistic that you're using as a shield to ignore the reality all around you indicates that you don't even understand that statistic.
You can't even say this statistic. So let's address this before we move on, because you keep pushing a narrative. We're going to address it. Black people in this country are more than 7 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted of murder. So when you only focus on the arrest, when you only focus on the arrest, and not on the fact that many of these Black people are exonerated, you are pushing a narrative, and that is not reflective of the data. And I have never denied that Black people are more likely to be accused of committing violent crimes. But you have to take into consideration that a lot of those convictions don't stick. And if you don't take that into consideration, you're simply not being honest and dealing with good faith. I never denied that.
Explain to us the statistics of per capita.
Okay, I want to give a last word to well, first of all, I want to ask Mark Lamont Hill, how's your mother doing, first of all? Because I didn't ask you in a moment.
Much better. She's recovering pretty well.
Okay, good. That's good to hear.
Thank you for asking.
And I'll give you the final word here, because it seems to me, Mark, the reason I'm exercised about this story is I think there is a clear double standard, and I don't like the way that the only time mainstream media have felt the urge to report this is because they can use it as a way to bash the MAGA right.
So here's my response. I think you put us in an impossible position. And I mean us, I mean people who are arguing the opposite. If you say there's a double standard, the only way to prove that there isn't a double standard is to cite counter evidence. When we cite counter evidence, you then say that's whataboutery or whataboutism. There's no way to prove that it doesn't happen in the converse unless we point and say, well, look at this Black person who also got ignored. And in which case you say it's whataboutism. I think it's important to point out the disparities here and the differences here. My point here is that they're not necessarily reducible to race. I actually find Chris's point more interesting. And one more point. Again, I have not heard the audio saying that I got the white girl. I've heard the claims that was said. I did not hear. I'm not saying you're wrong. Again, I read the story very intensely. I believe you, and I think that changes the dynamics. If that is in fact true, and again, I get to hear the audio, but if you two say you've heard the audio, I take you at your word. If that is in fact true, I think that does add another layer to the story. But to me, the more important thing about this story is not necessarily whether or not we talk about race in terms of why we don't, or the role of race and why we don't talk about this story. For me, what's more interesting is all the other stuff that gets the person here. Why is this person out of prison but not in a mental institution? What are the circumstances under which they got supervised or didn't get supervised? Why do they have access to weapons? Why is the subway a place where they're able to frequent so often? There are lots of policy issues that I think play into why we're talking about this. And if I were to have to choose between your analysis and Chris's analysis, I would lean more into Chris's, even though I disagree with his his conclusion. The problem here isn't liberal policy. It's the fact that we don't have enough progressive policy, and all we have is a carceral state that does not seek to heal or invest or protect or educate, but instead only wants to incarcerate. So that's where I think we end here. And I think
But he was let out of prison 14 times. We don't have enough of a carceral state. He was let out of prison 14 times, sometimes immediately. We actually should have had him in prison.
But
that would have been the solution to this problem and prevented this senseless death.
And Chris, again, I think that's missing my argument here. You said that, like, he was let out of prison a bunch of times. Yes, but remember I began by saying all we have is a hammer. Everything looks like a nail. I'm saying he was let out of prison, but he wasn't let into a mental institution. What would a secure confinement mental institution where he gets actual treatment and care look like?
Well, look, I've got to wrap things up. There's no doubt there was a series of failures at almost every level here, but I include the mainstream media. And I think they let themselves down here, and I think they exposed a bias. And I was hoping we were moving away from that because it's so obvious and so easy for social media to blow up and expose it and say this is clearly biased. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. Very interesting debate. I appreciate you all coming on.
You think the media? You think the media is? Just to be clear, you think the media is biased against white women?
No, I think the liberal media.
Just so I'm clear,
I think the liberal media is skewed in a way that they cover these types of stories. And had it been the complete reverse of the story, then I think it would have got a lot more attention, a lot more quicker.
Last month it didn't get any attention.
Yeah,
and she offers you the counter evidence.
Different.
She proves you wrong with that, and then you say,
let me ask you, was there a video? Was there a video? Let me ask Alison,
when you and I worked at...
Hang on, let me ask Alison, was there a video? Was there a video of the killing, and was there an audio where it suggested a racial motivation? Yes or no?
The crimes were not the same, so no.
Okay,
So if that's all, because you want to ask a leading
And it didn't
question.
result in a death.
So go ahead, you got
It's
your
not the
answer to your
same
leading
in
question.
any way.
Okay, and it
It
didn't.
is, because the only reason you think it's not the same, now you're exposing your bias, because when a black woman's throat was slashed by a white man, suddenly that's not worthy of covering. But you're here trying to discipline us and school black people and journalists on what you consider the left for not covering a story when you yourself were guilty of the same thing last month.
The only thing I want to school you about, Alison, is the fact that I'm not far right. Other than that,
I believe you.
you are entitled to your opinions, and I respect them, and I
I don't know, Pierce. After this
The
conversation,
today's
I'm
debate kind
shifting
of
the
made
message
me
of Megan.
question that.
All right, I've got to leave it there. I'll take my little far right skin
Thank you.
onto the next debate. Thank you all very much.
It was a wonderful debate.
Hello and welcome. We begin with some breaking news. Woke is dead. The war.
Epic. Love that.
The 10th anniversary Grand Voyage is an extended celebration packed with rewards, memories, and...
You say he's college age. Do you believe he was from this university? And how far do you think he may have gone in this time frame?
So I can't comment specifically on his face or any details such as that, as it's continuing to be a part of the investigation, and again, we'll release that shortly. However, we're doing everything we can to find him, and we're not sure how far he has gone yet, but we will.
But you have a clear image of his face?
We have images of the suspect.
Did you take his gun to order?
How much you've been able to recover? Do you believe you know this person is the person that you're looking for at this point?
Again, as part of the investigation, we're not releasing any details such as that right now. We are exhausting all of our resources to be able to collect those, but that's, again, part of the investigation.
Have you found the owner of the gun?
Excuse me?
You said you found the weapon. Have you been able to trace back the owner of that weapon or who purchased it?
We are working on that, but again, part of the investigation that I can't release.
Agent Holmes, there's been a lot of turnover at the FBI. Do you think that's impacting the investigation?
Not at all. We've got complete and total support from everyone, from director on down, and it's been an incredible supportive environment so far.
After we tried the one yesterday, useful though, where we announced the suspect was released.
All I can say is that we're working the investigation the best we have with the environment we're given. So,
Those
thank
are all
you.
the questions for right now. Thank you, everybody.
So the headline came at the end there, Dana. We have images of the suspect. That after they gave us a number of details that we were not privy to prior. So they say a number of individuals questioned, they've been released, they asked for privacy for them. At 11:52 a.m. Utah time, they tracked the suspect to that building. They later, after the shooting, tracked him jumping off the building, fleeing into a neighborhood. And they're asking neighbors in that area if they have doorbell cameras to turn over anything that may produce an image. What they didn't say is whether or not he ran there on foot or drove a car. But later they said, we do have good video of this individual, we are confident in our abilities. And with regard to that, they say they have footwear prints, so perhaps he was on foot, and also palm prints. And they asked for any video and images tipped to the website there. This is a bolt-action rifle. It is manually operated. It is extremely accurate. And according to a lot of gun experts, it has fewer moving parts, which would give the killer an opportunity to take a more accurate shot.
Wow.
And based on the graphic images that the world saw yesterday afternoon, that shot was a kill shot. It took one, and Charlie Kirk barely had a chance of survival.
I think it was a good idea for them to give this update this morning at the time that they did. Remember, so it's 9:27 a.m. Eastern Time. It's on 2 hours behind in Utah, and that's Mountain Time, 7:27 a.m. And they, I think,
lost his life.
You see what they were able to do. They provided us with the information that they could.
So bad.
And I think the reporters were asking very good questions, and the investigators are saying,
so bad.
we cannot answer those right now because we're in the middle of the
This guy lost his life.
And one of those questions was, since you recovered the weapon, have you been able to trace back the owner of that weapon? And the investigator very clearly said, not able to talk about that right now. So that's obviously either in question or they know it.
And they will need the bullet that killed Charlie Kirk for more evidence too. Robin Brieke, retired FBI special agent, Trey Gowdy, host of Sunday Night in America, and
Americans are able to
prosecutor Robin as an investigator of the FBI. Tell us what you think about what we just heard there in
minutest of levels. Imagine they pick the item from the
We're
bullet.
Phoenix Energy,
How was
a
the
family-owned
bullet?
oil company focused on unleashing American oil from North Dakota and Montana.
Called the serial number of that bullet.
Yeah, well, we're
make
an arrest.
How it was arranged during
I'm sorry,
the
Robin, go ahead. You were saying.
Who bought it?
Yeah, it's a lot of good data that we're getting out of this. And at the early onset, people were thinking this was a professional hit, and professional had a different connotation to me. I thought it was a skilled shot, but professionals don't do this. And so, luckily, he's made a lot of missteps, and as indicated in his press conference, he left a data trail of evidence that they're able to zero in on him pretty quickly, I think.
What do you say? Professionals don't do this. Take that further. What do you mean?
Yeah, so professionals, if this individual was actually truly trying to just kill Charlie Kirk, this is not the way to do it, because this is in a public venue, leaving a lot of footprints on the ground, leaving a weapon in the woods, not having a clear escape plan, which people thought he did, and so that's not a professional level like at the higher levels that you're kind of thinking like in the movies. This is a skilled shot, but an unskilled individual at being an assassin.
Trey Gowdy, you listened to that press conference as well, and you've heard Robin's thoughts. Somebody should prosecute crimes after the investigation. What other questions would you have right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the police did the right thing. They give no information to jeopardize the ultimate goal, which is a conviction. I mean, you have to make the arrest, but the ultimate goal is for this person to be convicted. So you got to be careful what you release. What the police essentially want is give us all the video you may have, give us any tip that you may have. I think images of the suspect are not the same as images of the face of the suspect. And prints are only good if you have someone to compare them or match them with. I think they are going to apprehend the killer, but the goal again, Dana, is to get a conviction. It is not simply to generate a headline or have a good press conference. This ends in front of a jury or with a guilty plea. The only other thing I would add, Dana, is as painful as it is, People have to watch the video from yesterday. And while they're watching it, and they're going to want to turn their heads away, but you need to imagine this as a husband and a father and a friend, not someone politically that you may happen to disagree with. This video is so jarring to watch. The problem is it really happened. And it happened in the greatest country in the world. And so we got to have a conversation about how much of this we're willing to put up with. So watch what happened to him. He is killed in an instant. In an instant, from 200 yards. For what reason? Because you happen to disagree with his political beliefs? Make yourself watch it. And realize this is a husband and a father, not just some political person with whom you may happen to disagree.
Trey, stand by one moment. Robin, I'm going to get your reaction on two things that we just heard here. Let's play the soundbite of the suspect's movements first. Let's listen here.
We were able to track the movements of the shooter. Starting at 11:52 a.m., the subject arrived on campus, shortly away from campus. We have tracked his movements onto the campus, through the stairwells, up to the roof, across the roof to a shooting location. After the shooting, we were able to track his movements as he moved to the other side of the building, jumped off of the building, and fled off of the campus and into a neighborhood.
Okay, Robin, go ahead, take us through this now. You would assume that if you had a phone, which I'm not quite sure you did, that you would be able to do that quite easily. But it sounds to me like there were cameras that were able to track him. What do you take from it, Robin?
Yeah, I think what they did was they were able to kind of zero in right away on where the shooter came from, where the bullet came from, because they released that right away. So they're able to get cameras on him in that location, because campuses have a lot of cameras. Plus, you had 3,000 people with cell phones. And so from that, they're able to backtrack the timeline to actually follow, because once they have an image of an individual, you now have a body language demeanor that he's giving off of a baseline of what you're looking for in that crowd, especially since he stood out with what he was wearing, all black. And so they're just backing up that timeline, and then they're advancing that timeline so they can track those movements. And so when they say they don't have an image of the face, they don't really need that image of the face yet, because they have the body language of the individual. It's going to be very telling over time.
Okay, now you said the video. Okay, that's the next soundbite. We'll let you analyze this too. Watch here from the FBI.
We do have good video footage of this individual. We are not going to release that at this time. We are working through some technologies and some ways to identify this individual. If we are unsuccessful, we will reach out to you as the media, and we will push that publicly to help us identify them. But we're confident in our abilities right now, and we would like to move forward in a manner that keeps everyone safe and moves this process appropriately.
Hey, Rob, I'm reading between the lines here. I don't believe they've got a name. Is that accurate, do you believe?
Series Land Cruiser. 2-inch lip, steel bull bar.
I think the thing that sucks the most about an avoided discard is if you are an ancient.
What if you can create your own website by saying, "This is what I want"? With Wix, you can.
I believe that's probably accurate right now, but I think they're going to get that pretty rapidly. There's two things here. One, you have the videos of the individual that they can backtrack and do a match on and see those egress and ingress points. That's why they're seeking more people with videos of him to see if you can track him to a car, license plate, and also start doing triangulation, which is going to take a little time, of cell phone data. The other thing with the weapon that they have, the likelihood of them having DNA is very, very high. Let's just look at the Koberger case. They're able to use trace DNA to actually do a genealogy search. It takes a little bit of time, but this is with family members that didn't even put themselves into the genealogy system. So I think they're coming at it from two angles. They're coming at it from the technology of looking at cell phone tracking data for this area. That's something that's going to stand out so they can rule out people that actually live in that area, since you flew into the woods, possibly vehicle traffic as well as DNA traffic. And so what they're looking for is they're going to have it, they just don't have it quite yet.
Trey, we're coming up on another moment of silence at 9:37, and I wonder if you could take a moment to just talk about this moment that we are in nationally from a perspective that you always so wisely provide.
Orthodoxy And as we've had events since then, whether it's the shooting of Abby Giffords, whether it's the shooting of Stevie Scalise, the shooting of President Trump, those periods of unity have begun to shrink. And no, I mean, it hadn't been a couple of hours since Charlie Kirk was killed before we had like a zoo-like atmosphere on the floor of the House of Representatives, which is supposed to be the people's house. So I actually think the American people are more unified than those that we send to represent us. So the representatives need to really reflect the American people. 90% of the American people would never do what happened to Charlie Kirk, would never shoot Gabby Giffords. And by the way, a child was also killed when she was shot, would never shoot at Stevie Scalise. We got to do a better job of identifying and silencing and separating that 10% from the rest of us. But look, our memories are so short, Dana. I mean, they were long after 9/11. It was weeks and months of unity. And it hadn't been 24 hours before we had begun to politicize the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Forget about the politics. That's why I want you to look at the video. This was a husband and a father and a friend that was shot through the throat because of political beliefs. I mean, surely, God, this country can do better than that.
No doubt.
Trey, thank you. Robin Dreeke, thank you so much as we prepare for this next moment of silence.
All right, everybody, we're going to do something a little bit different today, and obviously you know why already. My friend and a great American, a father, a husband, a damn good fighter in the war of ideas, is dead. Charlie Kirk died yesterday. You may note that this is a pre-tape. So as I'm taping this, this is actually, it's now 5:36 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. You're watching this live on Thursday morning, September 11th, because I'm supposed to go to New York tomorrow morning to be at the Cantor Fitzgerald 9/11 Memorial. Now with so many things changing so fast and so much breaking news, it's unclear whether I'm going to go or not. So we wanted to tape this either way, and I'm only going to do two things today. The intention for our 9/11 show is to do what I usually do, what I've done for at least 10 years on this day, which is to recap 9/11. I was in New York City during 9/11. My father was working in New York City in Midtown and was in his office and saw the second plane hit. I can recap some of that story and some thoughts, and we'll share a couple of video clips, and we'll do that in a moment. It's going to be a bit of an abbreviated show today, but obviously it's with an unbelievably heavy heart that I'm doing this today. Charlie was a good man. Charlie and I met about 10 years ago, and we were on opposite sides of the political aisle, and I was kind of waking up to some of the craziness going on the left, and Charlie and I just kind of immediately hit it off. I actually can't remember. I was really racking my brain to try to remember the exact moment that we met, and I don't remember the exact first time that I was introduced to him. But I do know that in those first few times, we were kind of always measuring each other up. Like, it was like, can I trust this guy? He's like a crazy right-winger. And Charlie was kind of like, can I trust this guy? He's a wackadoodle leftist. But there was something there. There was some desire to have conversation and debate and all those things. You're in the thick of a lot of the things, obviously, that we talk about here. So first, I just want to talk briefly about how we met, because I think it kind of shows sort of how you operate and why Turning Point has taken off. So we had met about a month and a half ago at the Horowitz Freedom Center event in Palm Springs. Were you a panelist there?
Yeah, I was a panelist and just kind of helicoptering around of a lot of friends that attend that conference.
Yeah, so you were there, and everyone was like, "Oh, you got to meet Charlie Kirk. You got to meet Charlie Kirk." We met for 2 seconds. You said a couple nice things about me, and you're like, "We're doing this our gig in Palm Springs in a couple weeks. Why don't you come down and talk? And immediately we worked it out, and your guys sent me the paperwork the next day, and it was done. And I think that does illustrate something, because we're going to get into some of the issues that we agree on and some of the things we disagree on. But basically, you were like, look, you're down for free speech. That's the main thing here. And I want my audience to hear you talk about that.
Well, you're a rational thinker, which is really rare to find in California. I'm kidding. But I mean, I'm a big fan of the show, and I watch a lot of your interviews, and I know you have a huge following amongst young people. And I mean, I met you. I was like, yeah, let's get you on board. I've always been a gut player, for better or for worse. It's got me into a little bit of trouble at times. But I think net it's been positive.
Charlie's been on this show, I don't know, probably 24 times over the years. I've been on his various shows and radio show, probably equal amount. We spent about 1.5 years doing those college tours, just like the one at Utah Valley yesterday, where he was murdered in cold blood. I never saw Charlie be not respectful to a single person. He'd get up there and he'd might say some controversial things, right? The truth is often controversial. He would have his opinions, never shied away from his opinions, but I never saw him be mean to anyone, never saw him put anyone down. As a matter of fact, I would see when things would be getting hot, maybe with some students, or there would be a Q&A and it was getting out of control and people were hurling insults, he was always reeling it back. He would always try to calm everybody down. Sometimes I would try to joke my way out of it, and he was like a little more of the straight man trying to just calm everyone down. I think that's why we liked being on stage together, beyond just a sort of mutual respect, that we were trying to heal some of this stuff, even if we disagreed on things. And we disagreed on an awful lot, particularly at the beginning. Over the years, we kind of came together politically in many ways, and I think there was probably not much daylight between us, probably some, doesn't even matter. But we debated abortion, and we debated death penalty, we debate taxes and universal health care and marriage equality and all of these things. And then after the debates and after the Q&As, one of the things we always did, and I always started doing this at all of my shows after I saw Charlie do it once, he always invited people that disagreed with him up first during the Q&As. He would always say, hey, listen, if you agree with us, we don't need to just have like a, oh, you're so wonderful chat. And he always would do that. So we would take part in that together. If someone disagreed with either one of us or whoever else might be on stage with us, they would get to come to the line first. That's something that I've incorporated into all of my Q&As since then. I'm much more interested in hearing someone that has a counterpoint or another view. And Charlie was very brave at that. Brave when at a time when it was very hard to be brave. Thankfully the culture has shifted a lot, in large part because of Charlie, and it's gotten easier to say certain things. Political correctness doesn't have the calcifying effect over all of us that it's had over these last couple of years, but it wasn't always easy to do that. Charlie and I would do events where there'd be police escorts, and we'd have to basically hide in rooms and have police bring us to the stage, and we'd have to know where the emergency exit was, and people would pull fire alarms and throw things at us, and got hot coffee thrown at me once, and crazy chanting and just all of this craziness. And he just he would always double down. He would double down and say, I'm going to go back, I'm going to go back, and I'm going to go back. I don't do as many of those events anymore. I do other things. My fight is a different fight. But Charlie really relished that fight. And outside of the political part of this, this was a guy who, even if you look, I'll do just a tiny bit more on the political part, and then I'll do the human part. If you look at even some of the things that I've been concerned about over the last, 6 or 8 months, some of the fighting on the right, Charlie was one of the guys trying to arbitrage that. He was trying to make sure that the right wasn't going to snap in half the way that I'm trying to do it. He was trying to find, and he was someone that people on both sides of a lot of the fights would listen to. He really was trying very hard. He loved this country deeply. I only met his wife one time, actually was at a wedding. We sat next to them at a wedding. I only met her once, but I just have no doubt that he was a great husband and a phenomenal father. And that has nothing to do with politics or public life or anything else. And he did not deserve to meet his maker this way. And we will see what lessons people take from this. There is a chance that we'll get a little more healing from this thing, and some of us, some spirit will speak to us, and we'll be able to be a little bit better at all the things that we do and how we treat each other and everything else. And then, of course, we know that that's not going to be everybody, and there'll be people that use this for their own political purposes or whatever else. But I think we lost a good one. We lost a good one, and I don't know how many good ones there are. A lot of people don't want to get in this fight. people always say to me like, "Oh, you're in the fight. It's so brave. It's so brave. You're doing it. You're saying all these things. It's so great." And it's like, I don't know. I'm doing it. I had this idea and I'm doing something. And I think Charlie kind of viewed it that way, but maybe a little bit on steroids. Like he really thought that he could start and ignite a movement that would get the country back on the right track. And in some ways, I think he did help do that. And for whatever, honestly, at the moment, I can't really think what our remaining political differences are. It's like it just didn't matter. Break bread after those events. Get into it on stage, put it aside afterwards. And that spirit, I hope, is something that I'll continue here and that you'll continue in your own life that to honor this man. As of this recording, we don't even know who did this or why they did it. I don't feel like getting into all of the political part around some of the things they were saying about Charlie on CNN and other places just in the last few days related to the Charlotte thing that had nothing to do with Charlie. Like, there will be time for all of that. But to put a bow in it, and then we'll talk a little bit about 9/11 for a minute. We lost a good man for no good reason. And we should all think about that and see if we can take a horrific tragedy and spin it into something better. So let's leave that there. I hope I did you right, Charlie. And let's talk about 9/11 for a minute, because this is probably the strangest show I've ever done. So I was in New York City during 9/11. It was 24 years ago. And I remember waking up. I had just got a little cell phone for the first time. I'd never had a cell phone before. It was in the early days of cell phone. I had a little Nokia black and white cell phone I really never even used it, but it had Snake on it. That's what I was mostly doing. Remember that old game Snake? And my dad called on my cell phone, and I remember thinking that was very odd because I had just got this thing. Nobody really called me on it. I didn't use it. I thought cell phones were kind of ridiculous, and my dad called me. Must have been around 9:30 in the morning. I had just got laid off. I was doing stand-up at nights in the city. I had an office job. I don't even remember what I was doing, but I had just got laid off, so I was sleeping. And my dad, who worked in Midtown, saw the second. They knew that the first tower that had been hit, but at that point they didn't think it was a terrorist attack. Then when the second tower hit, then everyone started realizing what was happening. And my dad called me, told me what was happening, and then the world changed in that moment. And I guess in some ways that's kind of like what just happened with Charlie. It feels like the world changed. There are moments that the world changes, whether it's one man being assassinated or whether it's a horrific terrorist attack that kills 2,000 plus people. There are moments in life. So I thought we could spend a few minutes just diving back into some of the memories around that with a little bit of hope at the end. And I'll tell you a little bit more of my story. And I've heard so many of your stories around this too every year when we do this. But here is the CBS News Live breaking coverage as one of the planes hit.
You know your business better than anyone, right? So why not build an app to run it with Base 44? This finance app solves your business headaches.
It's 8:52 here in New York. I'm Bryant Gumbel. We understand that there has been a plane crash on the southern tip of Manhattan. You're looking at the World Trade Center. We understand that a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center. We don't know anything more than that. We don't know if it was a commercial aircraft. We don't know if it was a private aircraft. We have no idea how many were on board or what the extent of the injuries are right now. We have, I understand, an eyewitness on the phone right now. Sir, good morning. This is Bryant Gumbel. Could you give us your name?
Yeah, my name's Stuart.
Stuart, where are you right now?
I'm working at a restaurant in Soho.
All right, so tell us what you saw, if you would.
I was waiting at a table and I literally saw it seemed to be like a small plane. I just heard a couple noises. It looked like it bounced off the building, and then I just saw a huge ball of fire.
All right, so there were obviously a lot of clips we could have showed you there. I think what was interesting about that one is it's hard to remember that even on that day when it first started, people didn't realize it was a terrorist attack, right? And we now know the stories of people that were told to stay in the building and everything else, even stay in the other tower, because there was no reason to think anything else was going to happen. Subsequently, not too long, I think it was less than a half hour later, the second plane hit, and then the world was changed forever. I lived on 90th and 1st in New York City, so that's like upper East Side, and the tower was obviously downtown. So we were sort of at polar opposite ends of the city. But I remember over the next few hours, first off, the soot and the smell and the burning and the ashes and everything just wafting up town. It's hard to imagine because it almost sounds like a sci-fi movie or science, just like a zombie movie or something. But the ashes and all that moving up the city. And I remember I walked out. I was glued to the TV like everybody else, trying to make phone calls and everything. And then I remember, must have been maybe around 11:30, something like that. I walked out to First Avenue, and there were just hundreds, must have been thousands of people just walking up First Avenue in the middle of the street. Some of them covered in soot and everything else, just everyone trying to get home, utter state of shock everywhere. The man who deserves more credit than any human on earth for saving New York City that day and in the subsequent months, of course, is Rudy Giuliani, who was the mayor at the time. And here he is. This man had his whole life from being attorney general and fighting the mafia and everything else. His whole life had led to this moment, and in horrible times, you need a great leader, and that was Rudy on this day.
So people should remain calm. They should remain where they are, except if they are in southern Manhattan. If you're below Canal Street, walk out southern Manhattan and walk north. As these people are doing right here.
That's cool. Do you know that? Right? Cool. Do you know that?
All that we know here now is that 2 airplanes struck the 2 large towers of the World Trade Center. We spoke to the White House. There also apparently was an attack on the Pentagon. We asked that the airspace around the city of New York be sealed by military aircraft. We've been informed that it has been, and we've seen military aircraft up in the air. So we're hopeful that right now things are secure. We need all of the open space we can get to evacuate people, to get people out, and we're going to have to move now and go north. So
God bless that man. I love Rudy Giuliani. I'm so honored that I've become friends with him in my adult life. And he was, some people step into it exactly when they're supposed to, like their whole life led to that moment. And he was such an endless calming force, and you knew that someone was in charge who was competent, and he was just absolutely incredible. And this is all sort of before social media, but there were still all rumors flying around. Had all these other helicopters, had all these other planes, and they were talking about helicopters been hijacked, and were there going to be more attacks, and what else was happening, and had the president been assassinated? Like there was all this crazy stuff. And again, before social media, it's hard to remember what that is. And we got through that horrific time. And then days later, George W. Bush went down to Ground Zero, and this was sort of the moment that America started feeling like maybe it was going to come back.
I want you all to know that America today is on bended knee in prayer for the people whose lives were lost here, for the workers who work here, for the families who mourn. This nation stands with the good people of New York City and New Jersey and Connecticut as we mourn the loss of thousands of our citizens. I can hear you. I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you. And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Okay, let's wait and hear what's gonna happen to Charlie Kirk.
So did you know that some of the biggest market gains don't happen during the day, but actually overnight? And what if you could...
Got chills down my spine. That was the New York that I grew up in. That's the New York that I love. That's what I wish New York still was these days, but that's for another show. And George W. Bush, regardless of what you think of him, regardless of what you think of the subsequent wars after 9/11 and everything else, they talk about a guy who was made for that moment. I mean, that speech was just perfect. There was a sense like something horrible happened, but we are gonna be okay, and we're all in it together. And then just a few weeks later, just one more video, as America was healing, and we finally, all the sports games were canceled, all events were canceled for a long time. It was just, we were in utter shock as a nation, but we really were coming together. And then a few weeks later, after they had delayed some of the baseball playoffs, this was George W. Bush at Yankee Stadium in New York, throwing out the opening pitch to World Series Game 3.
Tonight's ceremonial first pitch, and please welcome the President of the United States.
It chills up my spine again. It just an absolutely electric moment that it was in New York City, and that it really, we all started to come together. And I guess maybe that's the touch point between the horrific event, Charlie's assassination. What a horrible thing to even have to utter. And 9/11. Like, will we only really come together after horrible things? Now, I don't know that the country will come together because of Charlie. Obviously, huge swaths will not. Huge swaths. And I'm not even going to get into some of the things they were saying on MSNBC before it had even been reported that he was dead, between the moment that he was shot and being declared dead. But there was a real togetherness in America after that, and we probably made some mistakes along the way, and Patriot Act, and, a whole bunch of stuff. But I remember that America, and that America, I think, was probably a lot stronger than this America. You know, if we had a terrorist attack, the likes of which were comparable to what happened on 9/11, if that happened today, would we come together? Portions of us would, but could we do it again with social media and all of the bad actors on there and the bots and the foreign actors and everything else? Could we do it with all of the new forces that have confused us about freedom and what America really is, that have emboldened terrorist sympathizers to march in the streets and have made our children confused about their gender and whether the project of America is fundamentally good or not, or anything else? I'm not so sure. And I hope we never have to find out, right? Because we don't want something horrific to happen, and yet we're stuck in a position where it sometimes seems like the only way that kind of glues us together. I'll share just a couple other thoughts about 9/11, and I would love to read some of your thoughts if you were in New York City or even not. Just how it affected you and your family, where you were when you heard about 9/11, all of those things. I remember this must be about 2 or 3 weeks after 9/11, where we basically were just in our houses. Everyone just stayed in their houses and their apartments and just watched TV all day long. It was before CNN really went off the deep end, and I was glued to CNN. And actually, a few years ago on this show on 9/11, I interviewed Aaron Brown, who was anchoring their coverage during 9/11, and he was excellent. He was a real excellent. I don't even know if he considers himself a journalist, but he was an excellent anchor in a really horrific time. So we put that up a couple of years ago. You could check that out. A few years ago, we had Ari Fleischer on, who was George W. Bush's spokesman, and we've done a couple of shows like that. But I remember we were all sort of glued to the TV, and then one day I was just I was going stir crazy. I was like, I've got to get out of the house. The only time I was walking out was to get pizza or something. It's I got to get out for a little bit, and I grabbed my basketball. And I walked over to Gracie Mansion, and that's the mayor's mansion. And about a block from that is there were some basketball courts. And I went, and I had no idea if anyone was going to be there. You literally could still taste the soot in your mouth if you were outside. And I remember I showed up at the basketball court. It was so weird. It was an eerily weird day. It was late in the afternoon, kind of dusky. And there were a couple guys playing on the court. And we just started playing pickup. I didn't know anyone on the court. I don't know if they knew anybody. And we're playing, and it's just kind of normal. They were this fleeting moment of normalcy on the court. And then at one point, one guy fouled another guy pretty hard, and they got into it on the court. They immediately were ready to kill each other because it was just all of this pent up stuff. And I kid you not, this seems like it was out of a movie. they were right in each other's faces, and they both started crying at the exact same time and hugged each other. I mean, it was crazy. I'm getting chills again telling you that story. Like, that was what we had. I remember one of the things, it sort of became a joke in New York City. There was less honking of horns. You know, you go to New York City now, and there's honking of horns all the time, and it's not honking of a horn like, oh, watch out, you're going to hit me. It's honking of a horn. It's just like a guy releasing stress from his life, and that's why it's blaring all day long in New York City. But that even stopped for a little bit. Like, something really good came out of that. Like, everyone was kind of reevaluating everything. I suspect a lot of us are going to be in that mode because of Charlie, because of the anniversary of 9/11. And my commitment to you, I suppose, is that I will double down on trying to do what I do here all the time, which is communicate the things that are important, that free people to the best of my ability, hopefully in a little more of a humorful way than I did today, but in a way that will de-escalate this. Because yes, a lot of us are ready to figure out ways to get out of this, but there's a lot of forces, again, some of them are in the country and some of them are out of the country, that want to keep everything disastrous and messy for their own reasons, whatever that might be. And that's the great challenge for a free society and for free people. So Charlie, I will miss you. I have a feeling you're going to be with us for a long time, one way or another, in this country. There's not a feeling. I absolutely know that. And I'm honored that we played this game of life together while we did. So we'll miss you, Charlie Kirk. I hope that the throwback to some of the 9/11 stuff was meaningful to you. As I said, I'd love to read some comments about that. And we will be back tomorrow. All right, thanks.
going to do this stuff right.
I'm just flesh and bone, but more importantly, I'm a soul. And that soul is accountable to one being. I mean, I've had an unbelievably blessed life. Been doing this now, it'll be 12 years on June 5th.
Such a young man to do it.
So young.
Yeah, so praise God. I mean, I've been all across the world. I've met with world leaders. I've flown in Air Force One, got to know a president. I have an amazing family, the podcast, Turning Point USA, all that stuff. And so you experience that, and you're like, what actually matters? What matters is your relationship with the divine, your relationship with your family, your kids, and maybe a close collection of friends, and your relationship with the truth.
How do you want to be remembered?
I mean, if I die?
Everything just goes away. How would you, if you could be associated with one thing, how would you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing. The most important thing is my faith in my life.
This morning I can tell you that we have recovered what we believe is the weapon that was used in yesterday's shooting. It is a high-powered bolt-action rifle. That rifle was recovered in a wooded area where the shooter had fled. The FBI laboratory will be analyzing this weapon. Investigators have also collected footwear impression, a palm print, and forearm imprints for analysis. Now, I understand there are a lot of questions about motive. I assure you that all leads, tips are being fully investigated. As of this morning, we have received more than 130 tips. We thank the community for that. The FBI has brought every resource to bear, and we will continue to do so throughout the course of this investigation.
All right, guys, so we got to continue our coverage of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Okay, and we're going to continue to talk about the manhunt for the suspect, because there's more information that has come out that can give us some clues in regards to why this happened and the ideology behind the shooter. Now, we're going to get into it, again, because there's more information that has come out. And also, at some point, I am going to address directly the leftists who are celebrating this. But as of right now, I think that the main focus should be on finding this shooter, okay, and figuring out exactly why this happened, which we're getting some information about that, and going from there. However, I will say this, right, in the meantime. If I was a left-wing political commentator or influencer, I would be trying to turn down the temperature. I would be trying to turn down the temperature. But the unfortunate reality is that you do have people who do not realize where this stuff leads. That's the unfortunate reality. Again, I will go back to the assassination of the United CEO. I said at the time that you don't want to open Pandora's box where you start to normalize assassination culture, which is what is happening in this country. And leftists were celebrating it, just like they're celebrating this. And it's one of those things where once you open up Pandora's box, it is hard to fix this problem. And you have a lot of leftists right now who clearly are not thinking about the possible ramifications of openly celebrating a political assassination, while at the same time trying to justify it, claiming that, well, he said things that we don't like, right? That's what I'm hearing. And again, I'm going to address it more directly in another video, but my whole point is that these people are clearly not thinking about, well, what happens when my arguments, my justification of what happened to Charlie Kirk, because that's what they're doing. They're trying to justify it. What happens when somebody who disagrees with me starts thinking the same way that I think about what happened to Charlie Kirk? What happens? What type of world does that create? Clearly, people are not thinking straight right now. On the left, a lot of these people on the left are not thinking straight. So, again, that's another video, maybe for later today, maybe for tomorrow. But right now, again, let's focus on the FBI manhunt, because they had two persons of interest. They're calling them persons of interest now, not suspects, that they released. But apparently they have some information on the person they're actually after, and I want to go ahead and react to the FBI press conference that they had early this morning. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it.
Just to recap yesterday's events, at around 12:20 p.m., political influencer Charlie Kirk was at Utah Valley University participating in a student-sponsored event with Turning Point USA. Charlie was shot at that event. He was transported to a local hospital where he later passed. Last night, his body was moved to the state office of the medical examiner. We will continue to facilitate movements to get him home today and with his family. Yesterday, during the investigative process, we located a couple of persons of interest. We interviewed those individuals, and after releasing them and after clearing them of being suspects, they faced scrutiny. They faced threats. We asked the public to be patient with the investigative process. These individuals were not suspects. They were people of interest. We ask that you do not impose into those people and that investigative process.
Yeah, man, I got questions about why were they persons of interest? Because, again, there were reports that at least one of the guys that they had detained said that he did it, right? Were they trying to serve as distractions, decoys? Which, again, it just blows my mind to think about the fact that there were people there as Charlie Kirk was bleeding out on stage that was celebrating. That's the crazy part about it. Like, there were people there who thought that, oh, well, this is normal, this is fine, right? And who may or may not have been trying to obstruct, right? I actually believe, the first guy, the old guy that they detained, they actually charged him with obstruction. So he was trying to obstruct, which in and of itself is terrible. Absolutely terrible in real time. Now, again, they could have been a part of a larger operation. Again, this assassination seems more sophisticated than we previously thought. So, again, they could have been a part of it. I don't know. But, again, I think there's a lot of questions about why these people were persons of interest in the first place.
Don't deserve that harassment for being subject to that.
Hello, my name is Adam Ferrari, the Chief Executive Officer of Phoenix Energy. I look forward to you joining us at our next...
I'd like to thank all the investigators that are involved in this. They have worked around the clock, all day yesterday, through the night last night. Investigators from the State Bureau of Investigations, from county, from city agencies, the university, our federal partners with the FBI, the ATF, and many others. Those are just a few of the people that we have involved in this. I'd like to thank all of them for their strong work. Through all that work last night, we were able to make a few breakthroughs. We were able to track the movements of the shooter. Starting at 11:52 a.m., the subject arrived on campus, shortly away from campus. We have tracked his movements onto the campus, through the stairwells, up to the roof, across the roof to a shooting location. After the shooting, we were able to track his movements as he moved to the other side of the building, jumped off of the building, and fled off of the campus and into a neighborhood. Our investigators have worked through those neighborhoods, contacting anybody they can with doorbell cameras, witnesses, and have thoroughly worked through those communities, trying to identify any leads. We do have good video footage of this individual. We are not going to release that at this time.
Yeah, so a lot of people wondering, like, why is it that the FBI is not releasing more information? Well, it's because they are confident that they can get the person, right? They don't need the media's help. They don't want leads or any type of information that will throw them off or that will be a waste of time. So they're actually pretty confident. The fact that they're not asking for help from the public or anything like that, and they're not releasing any type of real description of the shooter or anything like that, outside of the fact that apparently the shooter is college age. They're not saying the race. They're not saying the gender, as far as I know, which, again, is pretty interesting considering how people are assuming on X, specifically on Black Twitter, that the shooter was white, and they're essentially trying to make fun of Charlie Kirk, claiming that this was white on white violence or whatever. Again, that's part of the reason why I really don't want to make a dedicated video to the leftist response yet, because there's just so much nonsense and crazy stuff being said that it's probably better to wait be thoroughly addressed. But again, the rumors is that Charlie Kirk got taken out by his own kind. Right, this is what they're saying. He was so worried about black folks, and he got taken out by his own people. And it's like, you don't know who did this. We have no clue who did this. Now, again, we all have clues about the ideology behind this, and we're going to get into it, but we don't know. And there are people who are already declaring that the suspect is white and saying stuff that is not based on any type of facts that we really have.
We're working
They're
through
just
some
only
technologies
clues, but
and
they're not.
some ways to identify this individual. If we are unsuccessful,
They're
we will
just
reach out to you as
clues,
the
not
media, and we will push that
conclusive.
publicly to help us identify them. But we are confident in our abilities right now, and we would like to move forward in a manner that keeps everyone safe and moves this process appropriately.
Yeah, I think that I'm pretty confident they're going to catch the guy or the individual, right? I'm pretty confident they're going to do that. Last night I was watching a video of a guy who was an expert at this, and they were saying that it's going to be extremely hard, just considering the geography of a state like Utah. It's going to be extremely hard for this individual to leave Utah. In fact, if this individual tries to leave Utah, it's actually more likely they're going to be caught because of the infrastructure, how the roads work in Utah. It's going to be really hard for this individual to get away. It's not really a matter of if, it's a matter of when, right? The FBI catches this individual, and I'm hoping that if they get him, they get the individual alive, right? That way we can actually get some real justice administrated on our terms rather than on their terms. So, from what the FBI is saying right now, again, I have confidence that they're eventually going to catch the guy at some point. Just based on everything that I've been reading and watching, it seems as if this individual will be caught sooner rather than later, rather than on their terms. So,
Last night I communicated with
what the FBI is saying right now,
the family's
again,
getting
I have confidence that they're eventually going to catch the guy.
As a commissioner of
at
public
some point.
safety,
Just based on everything
as a
that
father,
I've
as a
been
husband,
reading and
I
watching,
can only imagine what that
it
family's
seems as
going
if
through.
this individual will be caught
The heinous event that happened yesterday is not Utah. This is not what we're known for. Over the past several weeks, we've seen this state come together to help families in mourning, come together as a community to show what Utah is known for a state of character, of service, of camaraderie, of a neighboring feel. We will not stand for what happened yesterday. We are exhausting every lead. We have every officer invested in this, every investigator, every local agency. The outpouring of support from the law enforcement community has been astounding. We are investing everything we have into this, and we will catch this individual. Having walked through the crime scene, through the hallways of this school, through the classrooms, I can't imagine what the people on scene felt as well. A horrific event where some of them barricaded in classrooms, some of them ran in fear.
Some of them celebrating as well too, unfortunately. So I think we get the gist of what the FBI is saying, what law enforcement is saying. Now, what I really want to talk about is the ammunition, okay, the weapon that was recovered of the suspect, and that is going to give us some insight, is giving us some insight in regards to the motive behind this. So let's read here. Conservative political activist and author Charlie Kirk has died after being shot on stage during an event at Utah Valley University. He was going back and forth with a student about mass shootings involving transgender people when he was shot, according to the videos of the attack. Investigators found ammunition engraved with transgender and anti-fascist ideology inside the rifle, sources said. Justice Department officials cautioned that the investigation is still in its preliminary stages. Yeah, so this is a big deal. This is a huge deal, because what this suggests is that this individual, at the very least, was a leftist. 100% was a leftist, and they were trying to send a message. They were trying to send a message specifically about the criticism, because what this suggests is that this individual, at the very least, was a leftist. 100% was a leftist, and they were trying to send a message. They were trying to send a message specifically about the criticisms of woke ideology, including the trans movement, okay? And also on top of that, they express anti-fascist ideology, which means that this could have been, somebody that's a part of Antifa, right? Clearly, this was a far leftist, right? This was somebody that was radicalized. I mean, you have to be radicalized to do something like this. So I think that that's a given. But again, now we kind of have some direct evidence that, yeah, this was an act of left-wing extremism, right? And it was certainly politically motivated. Now, that doesn't mean that the individual was trans. It just means that at the very least, they sympathized with the trans movement, and they were probably a part of Antifa, right? But once again, now that we know, okay, that this was politically motivated, I mean, I think that it was a given from the beginning of all this, but now that we have, like, actual evidence, alleged evidence, that this was politically motivated, that this was likely a left-wing extremist, the question is, will Democrats and the mainstream liberal media take some responsibility for this? Will they come out and admit that they were wrong for, first and foremost, coddling people with this type of extremist ideology that they refuse to acknowledge, right? They refuse to acknowledge that this exists, even though it is very clear. They want to deflect every single conversation about the clear issue that we have in this country with left-wing political violence. They want to deflect that, and they want to talk about everything else, while excluding the fact that there is no dispute about where a vast majority of the political violence in this country is coming from. There's no dispute. Especially over the past 5 years, there has been no right-wing BLM where you had billions of dollars in property damage across the country. Dozens of people lost their lives as a result. There has been no right-wing Roe v. Wade riots. There's no right-wing Antifa. You had a Supreme Court justice almost be assassinated because of the Roe v. Wade riots. The current president of the United States was almost assassinated when he was running as a candidate. Twice. Not just once, but twice. Probably more than that. That's what we know. That's what we know. And we know for sure at least one of them, again, inspired by extremist rhetoric of the Democrat Party, specifically around Ukraine. We know that for a fact. There's no right-wing version of the pro-Palestinian riots that have been happening in this country. The No Kings riots. You're not seeing that from the right. And yeah, I know these people will bring up, they'll say, well, look what happened in Minnesota. Look what happened to those Democrats. Did anybody on the right celebrate that? Did anybody on the right celebrate what happened to those Democrats? I don't remember anybody trying to justify and say, well, they had different opinions than me. They believed in hate and bigotry. They pushed policies that we thought were harmful, so therefore, hey. Nobody on the right did that. I didn't see one conservative commentator say anything even close to that or celebrate what happened to those Democrats. And we really don't even know if that guy was a Trump supporter. He claims that he did it because Tim Walz told him to do it. So placing the blame on Trump and Trump supporters or MAGA ideology when we don't even have evidence that that was a part of that at all, it's just silly. In its desperation to deflect from what clearly is a problem in this country that these people, the liberal media and Democrats, refuse to address. The left side of the aisle, they become way too radicalized. We have data showing. I mean, Charlie Kirk went over this. That's the crazy part. We have actual data showing that almost half of these individuals think that assassinations are okay. They think it will be justified because they believe that they're good people, that they're the good guys. Except the reality is that they're actually the people that they claim are the bad guys. If you're celebrating this, you are the bad guy. You're not the good guy in this story. You're not. But the problem is that Democrats have allowed these people to think that they're the good guys, to think that their actions are justified. And they've done that by going along with this hyperbolic rhetoric because they can't win in the battle of ideas, claiming if you're celebrating this, you support a bad guy. You're not the good guy in this story. You're not. But the problem is that Democrats have allowed this is how we get to this area with that type of political rhetoric that Democrats traffic in during the election, and they still traffic in it now. And at some point, we're going to have to acknowledge that this is a problem. This has to be a real thing that is acknowledged in this country, that left-wing extremism is out of control. These people are not the good guy. You are not the good guy if you're celebrating this. You are not. You are the bad guy. So this is where we're at. Again, maybe later today, I'll do a more direct video about the leftists and what they're saying. It's one of those things I'm really on the fence about it because I don't want to participate in spreading that type of hatred on my platform. The crazy stuff that these people are saying. But also part of it kind of feels like bad. These people, again, the world has to see it because they have to understand what we're dealing with here. That this ideology is out of control. And ultimately, in the day, what happens, or what hopefully will happen, is that decent, normal, sane people will see it and they say, I can't get in bed with that. I can't support that. I don't want my country like that. I may agree with them on some things. But as long as they're like that, I can't support it. I got to support the other side. Because at least the other side is not like that. They don't want to tear the country apart. They don't want to be out here normalizing assassinations, killing folks over simple political disagreements. I'm hoping that that is the outcome from all this, that sane people realize what we're dealing with. That the people that think they're the good guys, right, that they're all moral and righteous in what they do and that they're just defending the oppressed, these are not the good guys. And I'm hoping that the reactions from these individuals that we're seeing on the internet is showing people who are in the middle, who are on the fence, who are center-left, that you are in bed with extremists. And if we all don't come together and realize what's happening with these people, our country is headed towards a dark place. We have to reject this. We have to reject the left-wing extremism that is becoming way too much of a problem in this country. Again, the United Healthcare CEO should have been a warning sign. And I saw it at the time, and I will continue to talk about it because that was the moment. That was the moment where I knew, I was like, these people openly celebrating this. This guy is a family man. He's a father. He's a CEO of a company. He did not deserve to lose his life, but these people were celebrating because they really believe. They really believe deep down that they're the good guys and that anything justifies them getting what they want. And that is dangerous. That is really, really, really dangerous. And again, center-left, moderate, sane people have to come together and realize Trump is not the biggest threat. That's not the biggest threat to this country. It's these people who are so radicalized that they now said it gloves off. It's okay to do whatever. Really, to get really, what we really dangerous. And again, center left, moderate, sane people have to come together and realize. Just think, make sure you like this and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.
photos so far released.
My favorite verses, though, is Romans 8:28, which just says that God works all things for good for those who love Him. It's a very freeing and liberating verse for those of us that are Christians, because we believe that when things can be really bad, God is working it for His good, His perfect and pleasing will, which is a very, very hard teaching when you come across business closures or staff layoffs. But it's very liberating that God is working all things towards an ultimate good. So I love that, and it kind of is very freeing that I don't have to be in charge of everything. And there is a God, I'm not Him, and I surrender to His will. I appreciate that.
Cole Burley live in Chicago. We do begin today with the very latest on the assassination of conservative political activist Charlie Kirk and the massive manhunt for his killer. These are new pictures just into the newsroom of a person of interest just being released by the FBI moments ago. These new images come after an update earlier this morning from authorities on what they say they have learned so far, starting with the killer's movements before and after the fatal shooting.
If you want to build an app and have no idea how to code or where to start, check out Base 44.
Starting at 11:52 a.m., this subject arrived on campus, shortly away from campus. We have tracked his movements onto the campus, through the stairwells, up to the roof, across the roof to a shooting location. After the shooting, we were able to track his movements as he moved to the other side of the building, jumped off of the building, and fled off of the campus and into a neighborhood.
Authorities went on to say they did find a high-powered bolt-action rifle believed to be the murder weapon near the neighborhood in a wooded area, but the shooter was not in the woods. They also say they recovered a palm print, a forearm print, and most importantly, good video of the shooter, but say they will not be releasing any video at this time, just those new images.
All right, guys, so we got to continue our coverage of the manhunt for Charlie Kirk's assassin. Okay, all hands are on deck. There are a lot of resources being put into finding the individual that assassinated Charlie Kirk at a Turning Point event in Utah, right, at a university. And we now have a photo from the FBI. The FBI has released a photo asking the public for help in identifying the person of interest. Now, I just put out a video on this, so I guess this is kind of like an update, because now you have the FBI like kind of formally asking the public at large for help identifying the subject. So I want to go ahead and roll this clip from CNN of them discussing the photo that was just released and go from there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Assassin who gunned down conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Officials just released this image. They are asking for the public's help in identifying the person of interest in connection with the fatal shooting. CNN's Nick Watt is following this breaking news. Nick, you are in Orem, Utah. This is a really significant moment that this is being put out to crowdsource.
Absolutely. So, Dana, we were told that they made some key breakthroughs overnight. One of those breakthroughs was good, clean video images of this suspect. Now, we were told about 2.5 hours ago that investigators were using technology to try to find an identity from that video image. We were told they were pretty confident that they could do that, but if they couldn't, then they were going to release the images to the public to try and get the public's help. They have now released those images on X, on other platforms, and it shows, as we were told earlier, a college-aged male who, as investigators say, could very easily have blended in with the crowd here on campus. 3,000 people here to see Charlie Kirk yesterday. They described this young male suspect as college-age, able to blend in. So the other key breakthroughs that they discussed, they have found a weapon, a high-powered bolt-action rifle with some writings. They are going through those writings. FBI and
some writings. Notice how CNN leaves out exactly what writings were on the rifle, right? Reportedly, the writings were writings that are consistent with transgender and Antifa ideology, right? So again, that's an important fact that, you know, mainstream liberal media, they're leaving out, that the Wall Street Journal has reported on. So as of right now, that's what we have. But this is a little concerning in the sense that before, when the FBI wasn't really releasing any information, again, it's because they were confident that, hey, you know what, we got it as of right now. We don't need any help from the public. But now that they are releasing images and pictures of the individual and asking the public for help, that means that they're struggling to identify exactly who this is, okay? And they need the public's help in order to do it. But I still have confidence that they're going to find the guy, especially if he's on foot, and that it's going to be hard for him to escape Utah, to actually get out of that state. But as of right now, again, they need help identifying exactly who this is. So we got to continue to wait.
Looking at the writings, also at the weapon, also trying to find an identity. It is now coming up on 22 hours since the shooting, and of course with every hour this task gets harder. They found the weapon in a wooded area behind the campus in the direction that they know the suspect fled, but the suspect himself was not found in that wooded area, and as an FBI special agent said this morning, they don't know how far he has gone. So they've been gathering video imaging from security cameras, from the many students who obviously had cell phones on them. We've seen the image of a person running across the roof just after the shots were fired. They now have all the doorbell camera video from the neighborhood through which the suspect fled, and of course they will just be trying to piece this together to try and track this suspect as far as they possibly can. But this is a major, major breakthrough. This is also a major admission that they have not been able to, I would assume, use the technology they were using on those images to try and draw an identity themselves. That is why they have now thrown this open to the public, asking for the public's help, as they have been from the moment the investigation started. The FBI says they've had over 130 tips by this morning, images, video. They want more of that, and now they want the public's help in trying to identify the person shown in these images. Dana?
I also understand that we have some new information about some words and phrases that were imprinted on the gun that certainly could give some indication of perhaps at least some of the motive here.
Correct. This is reporting from my colleague Evan Perez that there was some writing found with the gun, with the ammunition, and they are obviously analysing that to see if this writing leads them to an identity of the suspect, or if it is perhaps, you know, ramblings on current cultural events. Analysts are going through that right now. Now, Evan Perez also reports that they found a screwdriver with that weapon, because one of the questions that I've had is, okay, sure, this suspect could have blended into a crowd on a college campus, but could a suspect blend into a crowd on a college campus while carrying a long gun? Now, one theory, perhaps, is that that screwdriver that they found would have been used to disassemble and assemble that rifle. Now, we've also heard from authorities that they put together a timeline. They believe that the suspect arrived just by the campus at 11:52 a.m. local time. That is 28 minutes before the shooting, 8 minutes before the Charlie Kirk event began. They have tracked the suspect up stairwells across the roof to the shooting position that we believe is on top of a college campus building, with about a 200-yard straight shot to where Charlie Kirk was sitting when he was hit. So major developments, Dana, but still no suspect in custody. They have they have taken in 2 people for questioning over the course of the investigation. They've been questioned and released. They are completely out of the picture in terms of the investigation. No stigma on them whatsoever. They are searching for this person. They've just released the images of the person who they desperately want to find. Dana?
All the best.
All right, thank you so much.
Wish you all the
Appreciate
best.
that very important
Not
reporting
easy,
on
but
these new developments.
it's a
We're going to
positive step.
continue the conversation with retired
All
FBI
the
Special Agent Daniel Brunner. Thank you so much for being here. First, what does the fact that they have released this photo tell you as somebody who has been involved in FBI investigations like this?
Well, it tells me that the investigation is going through its normal course of action. I believe that this is just another step in putting more pressure on this individual to make a mistake. And that right there is the key where investigators are looking for, is they want this individual to make a mistake. He may have planned the next 24, 48 hours after the incident, but at some point he's going to get tired. He's going to make a mistake. He's going to get hungry. He's going to get cold. Very much similar to the Luigi Mangione manhunt, where he made a mistake. And that's all that it takes, is one small mistake. And he's on the run. So this individual planned for this. He prepared his escape plan, but he's already making mistakes by leaving the rifle, leaving the screwdriver, and clearly, getting digital evidence where he was tracked across the campus. And they're going to go backwards from there. They're going to watch him where he approaches campus. And from there, they're going to go even further back. Did he walk down around campus? Did he approach campus? They're going to look at all the digital evidence that's out there. But another key thing that they're doing here is pushing this photograph out is people who have digital phones. They may have captured his image. And that's why it'll motivate individuals to say, well, maybe I'll turn in my phone now for evidence, which will increase the amount of intelligence that they can get.
Oh, that's interesting, that this might be a way for them to just get more information and more, as you said, evidence from people who have not yet given that to law enforcement. Can you just explain, when you talk about the digital element of the investigation, what that looks like?
Well, there's multiple aspects to the digital evidence. You've got your telephones, you've got your cell phones, you've got cameras, you've got multiple things coming in from different sides. We live in a digital world. We live in a digital world where things can come in. You've got aircraft, you've got cell phones, computers. He's going to leave a digital signature out there. And that's what they're going to look for. That's what they're going to try and find.
Yeah, I personally think that this shooter is going to be found. Right, I'm hoping and praying that he's found. Like this guy said, he's already making mistakes. Okay, and I'm a little concerned about the fact that the FBI is now asking the public for help. But honestly, I mean, at this point, the more eyes on this, the better. Right, the more people looking out for this guy, trying to identify this guy, going after this guy, the better at this point. Right. So, this is where we're at. Again, this is allegedly the suspect. The FBI couldn't identify his identity with technology. So, again, they're asking the public for help. But, this is how investigations go. And I'm just hoping and praying that they get this guy sooner than later. And we just are going to have to continue to wait. But regardless, at this moment, this is what we have. And what I found to be fascinating about CNN's report, and that's why I was saying, wow, in the middle of this guy talking about the alleged expressions that were found on the weapon, on the ammunition, is that CNN did not mention that, again, allegedly, there was transgender and anti-fascist ideology found, again, on the weapon, right? Statements found on the weapon. Now, maybe they didn't mention that because, I don't know, the New York Times and other mainstream liberal media outlets, they're now trying to downplay that. They're trying to now refute that and say, oh, well, that might not be true, right? Which, again, we don't know, because we haven't seen images of these alleged statements. But this is what the New York Times had put out, trying to basically poo-poo this earlier report that these statements were found on the weapon and the ammunition. So let's read here. According to a preliminary internal report circulated inside the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, federal and local officials recovered ammunition with the rifle that appeared to be engraved with statements, quote, expressing transgender and anti-fascist ideology. But a law enforcement official with direct knowledge of the investigation cautioned that report had not been verified by ATF analysts did not match other summaries of the evidence and might turn out to have been misread or misinterpreted. In fast-moving investigations, such status reports are not made public because they often contain a mixture of accurate and inaccurate information. Yeah, so, again, the New York Times is trying to basically say that, hey, slow down on establishing a motive, which, again, we really don't know for certain, okay? But, again, the media, they're going out of their way to either, again, downplay that part of it or just don't talk about it at all, which is what CNN did. Regardless, we're still waiting to see. All of this stuff is alleged. The FBI also is offering a reward of up to $100,000 for information leading to the identification and the arrest of the person who shot and killed the conservative activist Charlie Kirk. The announcement of the award came shortly after the Bureau published 2 images from a security camera of a person in sunglasses and a black cap whom agents were seeking to question in connection with the shooting. Yeah, so, again, there's a lot of questions, more questions than answers. Again, my position is that I'm hoping and praying that this individual is caught, right? If this person is in fact the shooter, which we really don't even know that for sure at this point. All we know is that this is the image. I hope that they're releasing this image with certainty that this is the shooter. Because otherwise, again, it just gets messier and messier. However, at this point, I still have confidence that they're eventually going to find the guy. And I'm hoping and praying that we get some good news here soon, because now you have everybody looking out for this guy, and I guess they're putting this information out here to the public so that they can get more hands on deck, more resources, more eyeballs looking out for this guy and trying to get him arrested. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black.
Let us first listen to the king of podcast himself. Joe Rogan, what does he have to say?
The Joe Rogan Experience.
So this just happened. We just found out that Charlie Kirk got shot.
It's fucking awful.
And is he dead?
No, I don't think so.
That's what was just.
One of the guys out there just said it was
spoken
confirmed that he's dead.
in the lobby was just.
I've been looking. I haven't seen anything that said confirmed.
Whoa.
Murder for having a different opinion from somebody else.
Yeah.
Different ideology from somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Beliefs that didn't align.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Yep.
Rest in peace.
We're in
Fuck.
Fox News.
Jesus. 27 years old, maybe? 30?
Do they even have a suspect?
I don't know. That's why I'm literally trying to track it all on Twitter, and it's all.
Fuck. Nobody deserves it. He doesn't deserve that. Nobody deserves that.
You didn't deserve it, for sure. Joe Rogan, you didn't deserve it.
So, were you saying that MSNBC had a crazy take on it? What was their take?
I'm literally just reading Twitter, so I didn't see the video. I just saw people talking about tweets of it. I'll pull it up, though. Let me see.
Fuck.
And even now, they could have taken it down.
It was a tweet or a video?
I'm doing the show while I'm trying to figure it out.
Right, no, I understand.
I think they were live on the air, and people clipped what they were talking about. It's not a tweet. It's not on their Twitter account or anything.
So it's someone's hot take.
I think so. Live in the moment.
Yeah, that's a crazy take. Crazy take is that. What was the take? That they deserved it?
That's why I didn't want to pair.
Right.
Here you go. Dave Portnoy reposted this.
You found it? All right, here. Put it.
It's only 10 seconds.
Which a shooting like this happens.
You can put the headphones on. You can hear
Yeah, again, emphasize what you just emphasized. We don't know any of the full details of this. That we don't know if this was the supporter shooting their gun off in celebration, or so we have no idea about.
That's what the crazy thing was.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, if it was a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration.
What? Someone shot their gun off in celebration and killed him.
You shoot celebration guns in the air. Oh, God. Just,
what a crazy take. Like, it might not have been someone assassinating someone for the wrong opinion.
Oh,
fuck.
Well, why does something like that have to be spun?
Their ideology.
No, I know, but I'm just saying it's like...
I mean, they want to try to pin it on